As I scan the year for patterns that help me make sense of the instructions I'm receiving for how to live now, noting the many ups and downs, the ruptures and repairs, the struggles and the breakthroughs that I've been experiencing, I find two themes reoccurring. Joanna Macy has been a profound teacher about them both. For me, and by extension, her wisdom has deeply informed Bioneers. One is reconciling false dichotomies, noticing where polarities seem to appear, and finding ways to expand my perspective to be big enough to encompass them both in a new way. The other is reclaiming hidden parts of our human wholeness, both within each of us and within our communities, aspects or emotions that have been banished, trained away, undervalued, or anesthetized. Back when we gathered the unreasonable women for the earth, my intention for myself was to reconcile the schism that I experienced between self and service. I knew I had a deep yearning to learn about and navigate my own inner landscape. I longed to better understand the art of healthy relationship with myself and with others, to better learn how to live in a meaningful, purposeful, and congruent way. I also sought to serve the healing of our ailing culture and world in terms of the violence I knew we were wreaking on ourselves, each other, and the earth. I saw them as opposite ends of a spectrum, one being inner-focused and therefore dangerously selfish, and the other serving the outer world or activism as generous, worthy, and earning me kudos for selflessness. It wasn't until I discovered that my greatest service to the world lay in discovering what most lit me up, what music the instrument of my body was meant to play, and connecting that up with a real need for change in the world, that I discovered the falseness of that dichotomy. Growing up, I also learned that anger was a dangerous thing to express, especially for a woman. It seemed to consistently do more harm than good. Sadness and grief also seemed to have no appropriate place in our culture anymore, so I let my natural buoyancy inform my persona. In the last year or two, I've learned how much reclaiming them both strengthens me. Feeling anger or outrage, as well as sorrow and loss, have deepened my love and commitment to midwifing this new world into being. Joanna Macy, thank you. But Joanna Macy has been a profound mentor to me in these and many other ways. Throughout her life, Joanna has courageously and with caring curiosity shown ways to reconcile these false oppositions between inner and outer, mind and heart, outrage and centeredness, despair and ecstasy, and humanity and nature, because she embodies all these tendencies in their highest octaves. She is deeply compassionate and open-hearted, and also a profound, lucid thinker, scholar, systems theorist, and eco-philosopher. She is a rigorous meditator and renowned Buddhist teacher, and also a totally committed longtime activist in the peace, justice, and ecology movements, and her wide-ranging work bridges Eastern and Western traditions. What's more, her work goes far beyond the short-sighted, immediate concerns to expand human consciousness, to consider the perspectives of other life forms, as well as those of past and future generations. Throughout a lifetime of teaching, throughout a lifetime that may be 16 billion or 80 years, depending how you count it, her engaged spiritual practice and activism, she's written many seminal books, the latest of which is World as Lover, World as Self. These, combined with the experiential group work she leads, has profoundly impacted many, many thousands around the world. Through most of this lifetime, Joanna has been blessed to do this work with her beloved partner and husband, Fran. Through it all, Joanna has conveyed the extraordinary opportunity of being alive now to serve the survival of life on Earth. She offers us a framework that allows us to accept and reconcile our contradictions, to move forward wisely, lovingly, and fearlessly, our eyes, hands, and hearts wide open, with full awareness of the immensity of our challenge and with joyous gratitude for being alive. She has modeled how to celebrate life while being mindful of the privilege of assuming our responsibilities as conscious, sentient beings at this crucial stage in the life of this wondrous living earth, our home and our mother. It is a great honor to welcome one of the wisest women I know, a Shiro for all beings for all times, Joanna Macy.
Well, this is Sunday morning. Planet Earth, this beautiful world. You know, this time that we are living is so extraordinary that I keep trying to believe it and to understand it. And as I do, and inspired by what Nina quoted from Scott Momaday and her words as well, that we make sense of life and we guide ourselves by the stories we tell ourselves about us and the context in which we live, the larger story that can give meaning to us. And so I want to talk this morning about 3 stories that we're living in this time. And as I do, there will be, I hope, yes, there. That's us. That's a story, and that story is coming forward now, our cosmological story. But these pictures that will come up refer to all 3 of the stories, and they're because they interweave. They're not going to be in any particular order. Are you dying to know what these stories are? Yeah. The first that most people believe in, particularly those in economic and political power, is business as usual in the industrial growth society. The second story that follows from that, the first kind of slides into it, which is the story that I know many of you, particularly those who are activists and scientists, carry in your hearts, the story of the great unraveling of living systems in this planet Earth. And there's another story, the third, and that is the story of the great turning, that shift from the industrial growth society to a life-sustaining society. And that is what you are all involved in. That is what Bioneers is dedicated to. So I would like to look at these 3 in turn. The business as usual, that is, we're very successful at that. We ceaselessly tell ourselves. We are to keep us in comfort, convenience, security. No cost is spared. And the power holders in this society are actually proud of that. Can you believe it? They're proud of the fact that no cost is spared to keep us comfortable, to keep the lights on. We're ready to explode the mountaintops. We're ready to peel off the boreal forests. We're ready to let miles the size of Texas of plastic sweep over the Pacific for our convenience, for our security. This society only asks in return for that very little of us, actually. It doesn't ask much. It asks us to consume. And it asks us to shut up, to be silent, to consume, and to obey. But there are a lot of people in this hall and in this movement and in this Bioneers who are already breaking the mold on that. And the secret of the power behind this main story is, and also of its downfall, because it is in the process of self-destruction. You know that as well. If you don't know it in your mind, your body knows it, the erosion of life. But at any rate, it's because this industrial growth society sets its goals and measures its success by how fast it grows. Grows in what? Wisdom? Fertility? Health? One thing only. You know it. Corporate profits. Market share. Now, systems thinkers know, and it's common sense as well, that you cannot maximize one variable in an open system without it going out of control. And this system is on runaway. It's out of control. And so it's sliding into, and you here in Bioneers, you've seen evidence of that, and you see evidence of that in your life, that it's sliding into the second story, which is the great unraveling. I don't even know how to begin to talk about that. I mean, I can make lists of words. I can say words like sixth mass extinction. I can say words like economic meltdown. I can tell words of loss of biodiversity, 1 billion people living in slums now. It doesn't begin to encompass something that is really beyond our capacity to comprehend, and yet it won't leave us alone. It resides in the grief that we carry, each one of us. Each one. I think that I'll move on to the third story. I'll come back to how we handle this. But the third story, of course, is this transition from the industrial growth society to the life-sustaining society. We are alive at this time. You have managed, as have I, to get ourselves born into this epical transition. It's the third revolution of its magnitude and scope of our journey on this planet. It's as big as the Industrial Revolution, which took centuries to unfold. It's as big as the one that happened next 300 years ago in England, the Industrial Revolution, which changed everything all over again and changed our relations to each other and to the earth and turned the earth into what we see now. It's mainly a stock house and a sewer for drawing up the resources we need and dumping our waste. We aren't putting up with that. And so there is this revolution that is happening. But as you know, in spite of the cameras here, this real revolution is not televised. We're living it, though. And it's happening in our resistance to the desecration of life forms. It's happening in the farmers' markets, in the green building, in the new kind of schools, in the technologies, safe, renewable. It is happening. And it's happening mainly also in our heart minds, in the voices that we are hearing, the indigenous voices that have come here, and the indigenous voice inside each one of us. From science and from spirituality, and it is at the core a recognition that our earth is alive. Now, the thing about the Great Turning, my friends, as you know, is that it's not a done deal. We don't know whether it will take hold soon enough. It's underway, but before the unraveling breaks us down beyond the point that living systems can continue. You can lose the story of a living system. It can come apart. When a culture is lost, it's lost. When a species is lost, it's gone. When a language is gone, it's gone. So we don't know whether this great turning, which gives so much meaning to my life and to more and more of us as a whole planet, can happen in time. And so that's what I want to talk about today. We live in this time of radical uncertainty. That is the darkness of our age, I think. This anguish of uncertainty in which we live, it doesn't need to be an anguish, this awakeness of uncertainty. Well, Americans aren't used to that, you know. We were founded on not only unflagging optimism, but we like to ensure that we can count on certain things. We like to be confident about where we put our efforts. We want to be sure it's going to work. Well, we're in a situation where that kind of sureness can't happen. And so what I want to talk about this morning is the gifts of uncertainty. The promise of this dark age are the gifts that we can harvest from uncertainty itself. 5 of them. I like to count things on fingers of one hand. Here are the gifts that I've toted up, and I invite you to find some more. What do we get from uncertainty? We get the present moment, for one thing. We get a fresh recognition of the power of intention. We get the befriending of our pain and the great mystery that it brings us. We get our solidarity with all our relations. And we get an immensity of time, our true age. So that's what I want to talk about now. When you drop the need to be hopeful or hopeless, when you recognize that these are just feelings, that they might have more to do with what you had for breakfast or what somebody said to you in the last phone call, you don't put so much weight on them. Uncertainty can free us from the need to be constantly taking our emotional temperature as to how optimistic or pessimistic we are in the moment. Do you tap David on the shoulders? He's going out to fight Goliath, or Frodo. Wait a minute, are you hopeful? Get out of my way. I got something to do. And in that, you said that game of hopeful, hopeless is conjectural. It takes you out of the immediacy of the moment, which is where you're moving and where your strength is, and your alertness. Only in the present moment can you see what you're seeing. Only in the present moment can you feel what you're feeling. Only in the present moment can you take that step. So that's the second gift of this uncertainty, is that choice. Only in the present moment can we choose just what we're going to do. And it has been thrilling to me, both as a scholar of systems and of Buddhist teachings, to see that this capacity to choose is what is seen as the actual essence or nature of a self. We are, in our truest being, a verb, and the verb is what we're choosing to do. I used to think that it was more important what the results were that I achieved in whatever I was bent on doing, and that my motivation I took for granted. Oh, well, it's always there, you know. I can count on myself to care, for heaven's sakes. But then I realized that if I lose that motivation, lose that caring, I have nothing on which to intend. I'm at sea. And I can see why the Buddhist teachers put such great prize on bodhicitta, that motivation for the welfare of all. So we want to, don't take that for granted. Cherish it. Blow on that little ember. Make it into a flame. As Jesus said, and it comes right along with that bodhicitta, ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has lost its savor, wherewith will it be salted? That's what intention is like. Intention, your motivation, that you give a damn. Don't take that for granted. Bless it, that itch, that needing to take part. Thirdly, we're talking about the gifts of uncertainty. The courage to feel what you feel in the present moment. As you become present to your world, then you feel what you're carrying. That usually if you're being rushed and hurried out of your minds, you don't bother paying. You try to pave it over, block it down, shut it down, turn away, turn it off. But try as we might, it comes up again. The grief, the outrage, the raw fear. What in God's name are we doing to our world and to each other? And you now are not going to fall for the ploy of the industrial growth society to pathologize that pain. Hear me? Don't let people, therapists or well-meaning friends, try to explain it away in terms of your personal biography or that time of month. It is a measure of your evolution, it is a measure of your humanity. It is a measure of your nobility that you have a heart, mind big enough to see and empathize with the outrage being inflicted on our world and all our relations. I think I better stop ranting, you know. I just caught myself. So let me give you a poem as well. This is the last sonnet to Orpheus by Rainer Maria Rilke. And it holds all the gifts of uncertainty. Quiet friend who has come so far. Feel how your breathing makes more space around you. Right here, right now. Let this darkness be a bell tower, and you, the bell. And as you ring, what batters you becomes your strength. Swaying back and forth into the change. What's it like, this intensity of pain? If the drink is bitter, turn yourself to wine. In this uncontainable darkness, be the mystery at the crossroads of your senses, the meaning discovered there. And if the world has ceased to hear you, say to the silent earth, I flow, and to the rushing waters speak, I am. Oh, see, my brothers and sisters, that, as the poet saw, that is the meaning of the pain we feel for the suffering in our world. It means that we are inextricably, livingly connected. It is our body being savaged. And we are not separate. There is nothing that will ever happen. No cowardice, no folly, no failure will ever sever you from the living body of earth, because that's what you are. And this earth is waking up now. So you rest in that knowing. And know also then that the pain that comes up is just a gateway into which you go into a communion with the living world that is fearless. And that the pain for our world and the love for it are but two sides of the same coin. Indeed, that is so. Now, I have to hurry up. There are two other gifts, right? One is solidarity, but we're feeling that. We're talking about that. Solidarity with the life forms. It was so beautiful to hear Nina talk about, from dolphin to prairie dog, that we're waking up into the family, to our kith and kin. We're linking arms. And this blessed unrest, as Paul Hawkins says, this largest social movement in history, yes, and it's bringing in all of their life forms, and we're linking arms. And we must open our eyes. This is what I love about systems theory, is it helps us see, but any good cook can see this when you make a stew or a soup, the synergies, the emergent properties that come. That is my substitute for hope, and it's a lot better, because with every step you take, something new happens. With every relationship, with every person you trust, with every person you come clean to and clear to, something happens. And now the last gift, well, it's that immensity of time. You see, we live in a time when our karma, that is the consequences of our actions, thanks to science and the industrial capitalism, extends into geological time, reaches of time, hundreds of thousands of generations. I learned this in my work around nuclear waste. The decisions we make right now in a multitude of activities will have direct effect on whether future generations, centuries and centuries, millennia from now, will be able to be born sound of mind and body. You better believe that. So the future ones are therefore in our actions right here now. Feathered ones and scaled ones. And so are the ancestors by the same token. I want you to feel them present, along with the brothers and sisters of all species and forms of beauty and strength. And you can let them be yours. Yeah, you deserve that because they're on your side, you see. To be a human now in this darkness of uncertainty, they're all plugging for us. Please feel them, the ancestors and the future beings. Let them laugh in your ear as well as slap you on the backside and pull you forward, because we have great work to do.